Nope. But I'm not creating 1 ounce more work for you, Graham.
This is no work. This is the way I choose to do this.
No, this is good.
Awesome.
Great. No, I'm ready.
In that case, welcome to Yelling at Concrete Podcast, Jimmy.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Now we've got past the dramas, which is your current life.
No, it's good. It's good.
So, I mean, you kind of mentioned that. So you're out in Cincinnati.
Yeah, so I live a little outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, but at the moment, like I said, I'm down in Kentucky where my grandma, she's just a little south of me. I was swinging over here today to say hi to her, and it worked out because she has power.
Worked out perfectly. And grandmas are the ones who always save us. That's
right. That's right. She had cookies too. So.
Perfect. That's the cliche, right?
It was a big win. Yeah.
A huge one. I don't tend to introduce guests because I'm terrible at doing it. So if you could tell people who you are and what you do, that'd be great.
Yes. I am Jimmy Longbottom from the Longbottom Bird Ranch. I raise a whole lot of ducks and some chickens. And I think that's all of it right there.
It's pretty much to the point. How long have you been doing that then?
So on different levels for probably about 5 years. At the level now where I have more birds than I can count,
Right.
About 2 years.
2 3 years. That's pretty crazy. When you say more birds than you can count, I'm just picturing like an army of ducks at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's actually part of a running bit on my Instagram where people often ask me how many birds I have, and I refuse to answer the question. Just as a joke. So I feel like if I told you the number, I would be betraying that bit.
I feel it would ruin the plan for the ducks to take over if you revealed as well.
I feel like if the ducks take over, I'm sitting pretty. They'll ruin the kindness that I did them, right?
Exactly. So is this the secret plan? Befriend the ducks before the ducks take over.
Yeah. Well, Graham, I don't know how secret it is anymore now that you've called it.
I mean, that depends how many people watch the show, I guess, or how many ducks are watching. Okay, so I feel like there's a really obvious question of how did you get into farming ducks?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best not to be real long-winded because I do that. But
podcast, you got all the time in the world.
All right. I spent a lot of time kind of struggling with my place in the food chain. I was a vegetarian for a long time. I was a vegan for a shorter amount of time. And I decided that I wanted to raise an animal to be able to, eat directly from the source. So I wanted to raise some birds for eggs, and then eventually those birds would turn into meat birds, and I would have a really close relationship to where my food was coming from. So I got some chickens to begin with and raised them for eggs. And then when it came time to turn them into dinner, I couldn't do it because I raised them since they were ducklings since they were chicks, and I just couldn't do it. So then I tried it with ducks and it didn't work again. So then I just started taking in more and more ducks, almost like a collector. And most of them are males, so they don't lay eggs. So I kept getting more ducks, trying to, get an egg layer. And I just kept getting more and more males. And here we are. But prior to that, as a kid, I was a member of Ducks Unlimited. Duck hunting was a big part of my life when I was younger in this area. And I think that had a lot to do with kind of later in life, my struggle with, what's my place in all of this? How do I feel about hunting and, what I did back then? And, the ever evolving kind of wrestling with myself and where I get my food.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I recently, so I do obviously solo podcasts where I just wax lyrical on an idea. And I discussed fairly recently, I've been vegetarian now for 2 years or so. Basically, just pre-pandemic, I went vegetarian. I went very much for the reasons that you're talking about, in the sense of, I don't particularly see an issue with eating meat. I don't, butcher of anyone who wants to eat meat, but I was unhappy with not knowing the condition of the animal before I get it.
Yeah.
And not having access to that information. So I just decided it was easier just to stop and then, do the best I could getting the bits which I could. So yeah.
It's interesting that you say that. And actually, I listened to that episode because I liked your take on bread, I believe.
The bread cows.
Yes. Because of like what I do, I follow a lot of accounts that are farm accounts. And also because I don't kill any of my ducks, I spend, there's like a lot of vegetarians or vegans or animal lovers who follow me. So I watch this discourse between these two different, ends of the spectrum all the time. And it's really full of a lot of, angry energy, I guess. And I'm sure you've seen that too.
Oh, definitely.
So it's always refreshing to have like a calmer, like more, introspective conversation about it rather than pointing fingers and saying you're wrong type of deal.
Yeah, that my least favorite thing is being advertised, because you obviously when you become vegetarian, you're like searching vegetarian options for things.
Yeah.
And then obviously your phone starts offering you all the adverts in the world for, fake chicken and fake beef and all this. And clicking the comments on those adverts is absolute nightmare fuel.
No, yeah, I see it all the time. A lot of my stuff on Instagram is full of those comments. Like a lot of the earlier stuff. It is it's a weird world, like when those two things collide.
I find it interesting for a point of when you break it down to it's food. It sounds so simple that it's just food, and then you see people like literally red in the face screaming about it, and you're like, okay, just take a step back, maybe. It's food.
Yeah. And it's like so many other things where when you feel differently about it, or like your beliefs are really strong and you're just yelling at the other side, which both sides do this.
Yeah.
Farmers, will say terrible things about vegans or vegetarians, and the opposite is true too. I just never know what the end game is, because I don't think anybody's mind's being changed, right?
No, it doesn't seem like. I think that's why I do the podcast, because it's I like relaxed conversation. I like relaxed discussion, and finding different viewpoints is my kind of a view.
Right.
I mean, you say you've been farming for 5 years.
Yes.
Also, what did you do before that? Did you just fall into farming, or was this kind of a family thing, or?
Well, I think that a lot of people would take issue with the term farming, because I will self-identify as a farmer, as a duck farmer, just because I don't have a good name for what I do.
Okay.
All I do is raise ducks for eggs. That I sell those eggs, and then I keep the ducks more or less as, for lack of a better term, I guess they're pets, because outside of using them for education or like online purposes, they just exist. So, and I really just fell into that. The way I kind of, or said before, is I just ended up collecting a lot of ducks while trying to get to this place where I could have enough layers to make a living off of selling eggs, but we just never got there, and things went kind of a radically different direction. It is funny you said farmer though, because I have identified as a duck farmer without knowing what I should call myself, right? Am I like a duck hobbyist? Like, I don't know, but when I've said that before, a lot of people are like, well, you're not a farmer because you don't sell the meat. So I'm like, okay, well, I mean, whatever label you want to use, that's fine. I'm just not sure what that is.
That's so strange. I mean, I would class, you'd class someone who breeds cows for milk as a dairy farmer.
Sure.
So, maybe I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better way to name, and all I could think of was like duck enabler, because you just enable ducks to just make more ducks.
That is true. I guess the only reason I think about it is because so many people, you don't want to pay attention to those comments, because you'll never get anywhere good like that. But a lot of people point that out, and duck farmer just seemed to fit.
It does seem to fit. Yeah.
Man, I wish I had your dairy farmer, not argument, but your your counterpoint to them saying that. I could have used that. I may go back and use that, Graham.
Next time,
Next time.
It's just next time it comes up, you got one in the bag to be like dairy farmers.
That's right. I will post a link to this podcast.
Yes.
Be like, my friend Graham's got some thoughts on this.
This timestamp where they start questioning it, and if they have a problem with dairy farmers, you need a better name for dairy farmers, like cow landlords and
cow landlord. All right.
Yeah.
Duck landlord. I like that.
Duck landlord. That could get quite like slightly domineering because you like they're paying you to stay on their land.
Yeah, and most of them don't lay eggs, so I don't know what we're really getting out of it except the joy of watching them swim.
That's true. I mean, presumably. I mean, I don't know about ducks. I feel like I know about ducks because I've seen ducks all my life. You know, it's like one of those animals you've always like, I know enough about ducks, and then you speak to someone who does know ducks. It's
funny that you say that because that is what I spent a lot of time doing with these. I'd hold some like education clinics for like the youth. And it is kind of the main point of that. What I bring up is this is an ordinary animal that we've spent our entire life seeing. I don't even know how often people, when a flock of ducks or a flock of geese go overhead, even look up anymore to notice it. Yeah. And that's kind of what we talk about. Is these are a really fascinating animal that we forget about. Like I've learned a lot about the natural predators of ducks in my area. So I've spent a lot of time learning about raccoons, and never in my life given much thought to raccoons. And raccoons are probably my second favorite animal now, even though they attempt to kill my ducks at every turn. They are a fascinating creature. That was my tangent about raccoons.
Obviously raccoons aren't in the UK, and I fascinated some American friends because I went to a zoo in the UK and there was raccoons at the zoo, and I took a picture and they're like, "Why are you keeping raccoons in like a zoo?" Because they're not common. I never thought of a raccoon just eating a duck.
Oh yeah, it is actually when I do these presentations, I go through the 4 top predators and I tell a little bit about each. And number one with a bullet is the raccoon, because of all the other predators, it is the only predator that has the opposable thumb. So it can open complicated locks. It's like a raptor in Jurassic Park. It's amazing. Like it opens doors. How do you defend against that? It's a full-time job. A creature that will open a door. It's insane.
They're too advanced. You have to stop them. Come in.
I spend a lot of time with raccoons, stopping raccoons. I don't. A lot of people online will give you some opinions on what you should do with raccoons, but I don't do that either. Yeah. I do trap them though, and I release them. I trap them and try and have a talk with them, and then let them go, and hopefully they won't come back. But even when I have them trapped, I'll give them water and give them food, and you watch their little hands grab the bars like they're prisoners, and it is fascinating.
This is the thing. Like I love watching animals just do their thing.
Yeah,
I think there's something really nice about just watching animals, and even people who kind of like me or whatever. It's like you get anyone and you show them an animal just chilling out, they're mesmerized. And it's a weird human thing which we do.
Which is one of the cooler human things we do, I guess, right?
Yeah,
like I like that part of it where we like to just creatures. They but yeah, raccoons is one. Man, you blew my mind. I did not know the raccoons were not in the UK.
They're not. No. I wish they were. That'd be great. Yeah. Raccoons everywhere. Yeah. I think in terms of like, I'm trying to think of what we have, which is similar to a raccoon. The closest things we have quite a fair amount of foxes in the UK and badgers. Like those two would be as close as we get to a raccoon.
Yeah.
But even then, they're rare. Like I wouldn't run into one of those just on the everyday.
We have badgers, no, but fox. The other 3 of those top 4 are fox, coyotes, and hawks. The power of flight, right?
I have a question for you about hawks
Oh,
because I have a harrowing story for you about.
okay. Let's get into it.
So, a couple of friends of mine who live in kind of suburban area where we were recently bought a house, and they have a lot of pigeons in their area because of a lot of trees. And they found an injured pigeon at the front of the house. It flown into a window or something, injured itself. So they put it in a little shoebox. They were like, right, we need to go out for a little bit. So they set it up with like a little bit of seed, table in the box, and popped the box just outside, give it some fresh air. And then when they came back, they were greeted by essentially just bloodshed in their back garden because a hawk had come down and was
Yeah.
stood on the chest of the pigeon, just eating it.
All right.
So the question I have is just like, so how do you stop hawks?
Yeah. It's a great question. Have I got an answer for you? I wave my arms a lot in the air, and we try and scare them off. The only way to really tell, like, hawks will come often and like circle, because I'll have the birds all out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And often you'll see them just start to come down a little lower and lower as they're circling. And at that point, we're either going back to the house, or I have what's called a sorting rod, which is what I use to kind of like, it's like a walking stick. I try and guide the ducks.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I just start walking around and screaming and waving that in the air. It's not very, it's pretty embarrassing, honestly, if anybody caught it on video. But that's about all you can do. There are, I have a couple of videos I put up about hawks, and people tell all kinds of stories in the comments about like horror stories of hawks just sitting 10 feet away, waiting for their opportunity. Yeah. So I don't know of any good way to really keep hawks away, except for when I'm around, they're typically not going to make their move. But a good thing about hawks is that you see them coming long before they're actually there, especially on a sunny day. Like, you'll see their shadow go across this field 10 times before they actually make their descent, which is just an interesting thing you learn about hawks. Sunny days are the best days because you can see the hawk coming.
And terrifying for ducks who just watch a shadow scoop over.
Yeah, it is like, I don't know if you ever watched this. There was this television series called Game of Thrones. Okay. And yeah, small show. And
nobody's heard of Game of Thrones.
Yes, they had to cancel it because I was the only person watching. But when you see like the dragon, the shadow of the dragon in a couple episodes, that's what it feels like when the hawk shadow goes across the field. Yeah. Or I'm just being really dramatic because I'm out there by myself with some ducks.
I mean, that's the best way. I just felt so sorry for my friends, because essentially they tried to do a nice thing, and then he essentially just served a hawk a buffet of an injured bird and some seed.
Oh, so. It is horrifying, right? But I also have this thought all the time when I have, like, especially raccoons trying to break in, or I have lost ducks. The only predator that has ever actually gotten my ducks is fox. And I was there. Like, I watched it happen in front of me. There is another piece where you're like, I mean, it is another creature who, this is what they do when I'm not around. They're, feeding on each other. And there's some appreciation for that doesn't make me have any kind of like hate for the animal. The hawk or the fox that took my ducks, I did not do my job to protect those ducks that day. But, the fox was just doing what the fox is trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's a major point of contention in the UK is foxes, because there's still fox hunting in the UK with like horseback riding and all these kinds of things. And I know the farming community at least has a big want to be able to get rid of foxes and all these kinds of things. And it always strikes the general public or people who've never been involved with that as strange, because you're like, well, it's just an animal doing what it does, and you keep a lot of animals that they eat, so it makes sense. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. I wouldn't like hunting in general is something that because I used to do it. Like, I grew up hunting, big part of my life. And I don't do it anymore, and I can't imagine I'd do it now, but if I ever spend time thinking about it or reading about it, I waver back and forth on whether or not I think it's necessary or if it's not. Like there's a big piece of it where there is a lot of habitat that is preserved for wild ducks from the money that comes from like Ducks Unlimited or other hunting organizations. So, I'm torn like that because they really do. Like when I was a member of Ducks Unlimited, you go to these events and there's so much, I don't know, love for this majestic creature. They talk about it with high regard, and up until the point they shoot it, right? And that's just, I'm with them all the way up until that point. And then I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I'm out. Yeah, and I completely agree. I think because I always, even when I was younger, I always liked the idea of hunting from the standpoint of it's not factory farmed. It's not a battery hen. It's something like that. Or like I went out. It's like I put the effort in. I put the time in to go out and find this, and it'd be like a once in a few months thing. But yeah, I can completely agree. It's just like I don't think it's something we're ever going to solve until we
right. Yes.
rewild or give up meat completely. So.
It's another one of those things, right? The one where both sides are red in the face, pointing and yelling. It's just too much.
There's not much you can do. So I was trying to kind of consider what points we could talk around about ducks.
Sure.
Because they're a large topic. So what I did was I asked a group of friends questions which they want to know about ducks.
Okay.
Because you're a duck person, I figured this was an easy way of getting in. And then I recently saw your post about ducks and bread.
Yeah. And
I thought if you could explain your point about ducks and bread, because I know that's a major thing of like people get concerned now about feeding ducks bread. And
yeah. I'm so glad you asked me because it's like the most controversial thing that I do. I'm not a controversial guy, but my stance on bread and ducks is. This kind of came from. So I raised ducks. So like in my like day-to-day life with people I run into, a lot of times people will say to me when they find out, they'll be like, well, do you tell people that they shouldn't be feeding ducks bread because it's bad for them? With kind of this like gatekeeper mentality that like a lot of people seem to have around it. And it bothered me because the way I fed ducks bread when I was a kid growing up. I think a lot of people have, it's just one of those things. You have a loaf of old bread, you go to the pond, you give them bread. It's not good for ducks. It is useless. It fills them up. They won't, like, they're full of this non-nutritious for them bread. So they're not going to go out and eat something they need to eat. But people care about these animals. That's why they're going and feeding them bread. These are good-hearted people who maybe, like, if you just let them know, which is what I was trying to say in that post, I'm like, if you do this often, it's worth it maybe to go to a Tractor Supply or a farm store, buy a $15 bag of duck feed and just bring that instead. It's better for the ducks. But eating bread for ducks is as bad as me eating McDonald's French fries all the time. It's not good for me, but it is going to keep me, I won't starve that day. And a lot of ducks are dependent upon these visitors at these ponds or rivers. And my concern is that if you say you're not allowed to feed ducks bread, it's bad for ducks, these people are just going to say, all right, well, then I'll feed the ducks nothing. Yeah. And the person who said you shouldn't feed ducks bread, I'm worried that person isn't going down there with pieces of grape to feed the duck. So all of a sudden, the ducks have nobody feeding them. So I think everything I said in the last 3 minutes, I do not think was very clear, but I'll sum it up like this. Yeah. Feed the ducks. You want to feed the ducks bread? Awesome. It'd be better if you fed them something else, but if you're willing to feed them bread, appreciate you doing it.
I think, I think that's a fair point. It reminded me of a comedian called Mitch Hedberg, who used to have a joke about ducks, who was along the lines of like the ultimate joke on ducks is that they love bread, but they have no means to get bread.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that idea. It's just ducks just sat there longing at supermarkets, just like, oh, there's so much bread in there.
That is the thing with ducks is they'll just eat anything, like anything. And bread is like it's an easy thing to bring down there, and it's no ducks. No ducks are being poisoned by bread. It's fine. Um, it is weird though. I feel like it is the last year or so. It's the first time in my life I've heard people really start talking about bread not being good for ducks or how bad it is.
Yeah, I think, like you say, though, it is one of those things. If you, it's probably one of like the earliest memories anyone has as a kid. Is
Yeah,
usually, you go to a park or you go to like a wildlife center or something, and you feed ducks, and usually your parents take you with a bag of crusts to throw to the ducks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it really bothers me that anyone would try and correct that person in a way that wasn't helpful, because anyone who wants to go down and take pleasure in watching ducks and give them treats
Mhm.
gets a big thumbs up in my book.
Most definitely. I do have a follow-up question about things ducks eat, though, because
Oh yeah.
Someone asked, do they eat acorns, and if so, how so? Because acorns are huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So not a big thing around right where I'm at, acorns, but I do know that they can eat acorns, like a lot of things that like naturally occur. Like they're going to be able to eat it. Like they've evolved to either be able to do these things or not. The biggest concern with acorns is I know it's one of those things that's like super rich in tannins, which can just make any animal sick. And how a duck digests things is it has right at the base of its throat, it has what's called a crop. And the crop can get something in it that's too large to pass through. This is one of like the biggest health issues I have with all the ducks. And you have to spend time like putting water down their throat and massaging the item like through their system. The crop is there to kind of break things down. And ducks aren't going to chew anything up. So what's going in is basically going in whole. That's why I say, like, if you give them grapes, dice up the grapes.
So that would be a toddler. Like,
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like a toddler. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if this is true with toddlers, but yeah, ducks can have acorns. They'll be all right.
I mean, I don't want to be the person who puts out that you can feed a toddler an acorn.
Graham, I'm going to do it. Everyone, acorns for toddlers. Longbottom Bird Ranch approved. It's fine. We'd set it here first.
Second controversial thing of today.
That's right. I think that but it'll be fine. Anything, you don't want anything too big going in that crop. That would be my only real concern with an acorn.
Yeah.
Hope that answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, when I read the question, it's like I don't see why it's such a big concern. And then they explained more to me, like, well, acorns, this big, and a duck's neck is like,
yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, because ducks don't have teeth.
They basically swallow, like they'll break up a little bit, but they basically swallow everything whole, and then it gets broken down right in there. I spend so much time, like, because you can see the chest is bulging, and if it doesn't go down today, I know there's a problem, so I just have to sit there and massage them.
The duck Heimlich.
Yes, the reverse Heimlich, where I wanted to go the other way. But yeah, yes, precisely.
That's genius. I like it. I noticed you name your ducks. Do you name all your ducks?
Yeah, and I actually don't name them. So I have a separate Instagram account where what I did is so around Easter time, this may be true in the UK too, I don't know.
We'll find out.
A lot of people get ducklings as like, kids do. I did. So when these ducks grow up and they're too messy to keep, people will drop them at local ponds or at a river because, you see ducks at the river, and why can't I put my duck there? Because domestic ducks that you would buy at the store don't have the means to survive. They cannot fly. So, they're going to die out there. So when I got my ducks, I decided, all right, let's say you're going to get a duck for Easter, but you don't think you can keep it. You can virtually sponsor one. You get to name it. I'll send you a video once or twice a month with an update about your duck. So I did that, and now every single duck has a sponsor, they name their duck. And so when I say their names, it's somebody. It's mostly like children for the most part, and they get a couple videos every month of me telling them how the duck's doing. And anybody can watch that. It's LBBR Quack Pack on Instagram. It's a separate account where I post all that.
I feel like you may have just solved my need for a Christmas present for someone of just sponsoring a duck.
Perfect. I've got one right now. Su Ling. She's already named it. That's the problem.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you want to go confuse a duck by changing their name. Like,
no, I made the mistake of naming a few of them, like my first ducks, my first flock, and then named one I thought was really pretty the day I got her, Su Ling. But I refused to change a duck's name. So it's unfair to the duck, right?
yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe it's a dumb question. Do ducks have personality?
Yeah, I say yes.
Yeah.
Like some like to bite me and some don't. Yeah.
Some are sassy and some ducks aren't sassy.
Yeah. I don't know. Most of them like to bite me. Now that I think about it. Yeah.
It's not that they're trying to bite you, they're just trying to swallow you.
They are, yes. They don't, yes. They're like, this, I don't know. If I could swallow that acorn, I feel like this fella.
This guy, like, maybe.
Yeah.
That's like, it's a very bold, I feel like snakes do that similarly. Like, you have a snake and you'll feed it, and it'll go a little while, and every so often it'll be like, well, maybe I could swallow that guy.
I think that's like one of my favorite old movie tropes is the whole human body in the snake.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of horror movies. I feel like that's.
I feel like ducks would be a great thing for a horror film. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, as a matter of fact, I don't want to sidetrack, but that does bring up a question I have for you.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. You can ask me as much as I ask you loads of questions. You've got to be able to ask me questions. It's a two-way street.
Conversation, right? So I listened to the podcast. I love the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. I love it so much. I'm on it right now. So I've heard you drop hints. I feel like you have some sort of connection to ducks, and I heard you mention like a stuffed duck that you were using on a TikTok video at some point.
Oh yeah, so that's Pickle, who Pickle is a blue stuffed duck. He's about this big, and he's a stuffed toy, which we won at like an amusement fair one year, and has no wings. He's just feet and face, pretty much.
Oh really?
Yeah. He's quite strange, but the story with him is kind of strange in the sense of when we were at this fairground and playing the game and whatnot, and we won this duck, and I didn't want to win the duck because I didn't particularly think much of him compared to other prizes in the situation, and so we got this duck, and then long down the line, me and my partner separated, but Pickle stayed with me.
All right.
So now I still have this duck, but I don't want to part with the duck because we've now become friends.
You and the duck have become friends?
Well, yeah, you got to be friends with the duck. Yeah.
Oh, of course. That's good to hear. That's a good name too, Pickle.
Pickle, yeah.
So what is it about Pickle, if it didn't have wings, how is it that you've identified it as a duck?
I mean, it has a beak, and that suggested. I mean, I don't know how to gender or to what makes a duck compared to like a platypus.
I agree. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Yeah. Well, when you said it's a duck, it's just feet and a head. I'm busy over here trying to visualize and was having some difficulty, but I love it. So that is okay. So that's good. That's a good connection you have to ducks.
I do have a second connection to a duck.
I think. Can I guess what it is?
Go for it.
I think I know. Did you? I saw a piece of art that you had made of a duck.
That is the second connection to a duck. I have a piece of artwork about a duck.
Sorry, Graham, I came prepared.
This guy's done research.
Graham. Yeah, and I liked it a lot. So tell me about that.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, for anyone who hasn't seen, it's an illustration of a duck smoking with a black armband and a little heart symbol on its chest. I have a bad habit, or not necessarily a bad habit, of drawing animals in human situations.
Hmm.
Because and I make a calendar of depressed animals every year. I just had one come out because I like this idea that we're kind of each individualistic for personalities as human beings, and we look at animals as unique. We go, they're majestic, they're these elegant, wonderful things, and then we try to apply those theories back to ourselves, and we don't see it necessarily because we work mundane jobs. You work doing gas station or cooking in a kitchen or something like that. So I like drawing animals in human situations.
Yeah.
And with the duck, it was literally, I think it was like 1 month. I was just having an absolute crap month. And I was like, what if there was just a duck who represented apathy to such a degree of, a duck doesn't have lips, so it can't hold on to a cigarette, but he's still smoking, and he's got like a black armband because he's a duck. He's basically born to die for the most part, and he's just chilling out. But inside, he's still kind of loving, which is why the heart is on the chest. And that's my duck.
I love it.
Okay. It's part of a series I want to do essentially of smoking animals.
Yeah, no, I really like the idea of the duck smoking. Actually, at one point, I still have to, because I promised someone I have to get a tattoo of one of my ducks, but I didn't want to get it. I didn't just want like a picture of a duck. I wanted it as like a character almost. And the tattoo artist had shown me a picture of a duck smoking a cigarette, and I was like, yeah,
there's something elegant about a duck with a cigarette. And I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I'm a former smoker. I just like cigarettes, but yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
I think as well, like, I mean, it's a tangent, but I think like smoking ducks always remind me of Looney Tunes and like Hanna-Barbera cartoons, because whenever you saw like Daffy or anyone like that, just in a moment of trouble, they'd have a cigarette.
Is that true?
It just from what my memory says, I feel like it's one of those things. I've got a very definite memory of like one scene being like lined up for a shooting gallery and someone lighting him a cigarette. And I think there's just something about that. Like, I don't know, it fits like
it does. It makes sense too. That is so wild to me, because we're so far from a cartoon ever doing that today, right? Showing a duck smoke, but it seems to make all the sense in the world. There's cartoon characters. Animals were probably smoking all the time in 1954. I know.
It makes me well. Like I don't have kids, so I don't know in terms of modern cartoons of how you depict a character giving up. Like back in the day, they'd have a cigarette, they'd have a drink, and they'd have a cigarette.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't really know what today. I made a Paw Patrol reference the other day because it was like what thought the new like cool thing was, and I was people let me know that's a really dated kids reference, and I thought that came out months ago. I had no idea.
I think someone who did an episode of something else, and someone made like a Ben 10 reference, and apparently that's years and years gone. And I was like, no, that came out like last year, as far as I know.
Oh yeah, well, that's a real sign of my age when I was like too old for SpongeBob SquarePants, really. Like, it was right at the end of my childhood when it came out, and it's been around for like 25 years or something insane. Like, cool.
Yeah, it worries me. I've worked with a lot of younger people who you ask them like what their main point of references are. Like, yeah, when you get nostalgic, what you think about it, they say SpongeBob SquarePants, and I'm like, no. Like,
oh yeah. Well, there was recently the Blue's Clues guy came out and was trending because he showed up and did like that. I don't know if you saw that. He did some. I remember you guys' video, and I'm like, man, I never saw that show in my life. I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah. I mean, coming from UK, like Blue's Clues wasn't a thing in the UK. The only reason I know about it is because it's been a meme since it's come out, and then I've learned about it all from that.
Yeah, I do a lot of that, like reverse. Something out there, like look what's happening from 25 years ago. I'm like, well, let me learn about the original thing. it what was a big in the UK? Fraggle Rock is a UK thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Fraggle Rock had the benefit of being kind of like Jim Henson
Oh,
and
was it?
that, like, yeah, and obviously the Muppets went huge, so then Fraggle Rock continued, like, got a little bit of that like attention. And
All right. Growing up, pop like anything like Muppets, Fraggle Rock, Eureka's Castle, like anything that was puppets, I could not access because it was something like it was this in between world that really freaked me out. So I never watched any of that. I call Muppet Christmas first Muppet thing I've ever seen. And I know you recently did a podcast with someone about Muppets, basically.
yeah,
And I that's the first time I'd ever seen Muppet anything was Muppet Christmas Carol, which 2 thumbs up, by the way.
I mean, it's my favorite Christmas film.
Oh yeah, that was good. It was just a shame that it took me 38 years to finally watch anything with a Muppet.
I would say that you could easily go back from Muppets Christmas Carol if you ever just like, I want a wholesome evening, and just watch any of the Muppets films, and you'll still be satisfied. Like
it it does. Is it okay if we're going on a little tangent here that is not about
that's what this whole show is about.
Okay. I worry that I'm upsetting the format. I have been doing that in the last couple of years, which I've been trying to open my mind to like a lot of pulp culture things that I've either like applied like contempt prior to investigation to, where I just was like, I will not like that thing. I will not look into it. Mm-hmm. For example, like anime is something that my whole life, I'm like, that's just not for me. In the last couple of years, I was like, well, it has such a big fan base. Like maybe this is something I will like. So I've tried to watch anime. Muppets is like something from it's harder to access the things from my childhood as an adult, but like Muppets would be another thing. One that's really worked for me is I always thought Godzilla movies were like from the 60s and 70s were so campy and silly. And then I went back and watched all the Godzilla movies and I've like loved them. And it is just one of those things where it's like really surprising that I spent my whole life being like, I will never try that thing.
Yeah.
And then like the Godzilla movies specifically, like I'm so into them right now, and it's a real shame that I guess I'm glad I found an interest in this now. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. I do that all the time. Of just kind of that little inkling where you're just like, maybe I'll give it a go. You know, maybe I'll try this out, and going back and watching something. I'm always like, because so like you mentioned Game of Thrones earlier, I have an annoying thing in my head of like, if something gets recommended to me too many times,
yes,
I actively avoid it.
Yeah.
Like, and Game of Thrones is a good example of that. When Game of Thrones started, everyone was super hyped about it. They're like, you're gonna love it, Graham. It's all about this and this. And I was like, that's great. I'm never gonna be able to watch this show.
I totally get it. I will never watch Squid Game for as long as I live. I know I won't. Because everyone keeps telling me you haven't watched Squid Game yet, and I'm like, I'm out. I'm not going to watch it. No, that total sense.
This shows which I feel like I know I'd love as well. I think this show in the UK, Black Mirror, which people, it's completely up my alley. I love like Twilight Zone and X-Files and things which are like kind of twisted and a bit dystopian, but too many people were just like, you need to watch Black Mirror. It's definitely, you'll love it. I'm like, yeah, but what if I don't now?
That's which is funny. What if you don't, right? If it gets hyped up too much. That's when I tried anime, that's one of the traps I fell into, is everyone's like, this is the best anime, watch this. And I watched it and I was like, it's okay. Like I liked it okay. But if this is the best one, then I guess I'm just not going to like the rest of it, right? Or at least that's the attitude I brought to it.
It was an analogy I made recently where I said like anime is a lot like sports.
Yeah.
In that everyone thinks the one they watch is the best. Right?
Okay.
And they're die hard. You can't say anything wrong about their favorite anime. In the same way you can't belittle anyone's sports team because it will just upset somebody. Anime is exactly the same. And then when you're on the outside and you step in, you're like, these are kind of the same. And I don't know which ones I like.
That's great. That's great. Well, I feel like that quote may convince me to try another anime, and because I like it. You know what I mean? You ever watch something people recommend, you're like, I liked it fine, but I came into this thinking my life was going to be a revolution. And I was
gonna blow my mind. I mean, I can recommend you an anime, but I don't watch a lot of anime. And the only one I would say maybe try to watch is Trigun.
Oh, you're right, Graham. Everyone says I never even heard that one.
Yeah, it's like I think there's like one season of it.
Oh, perfect. Now we're talking. One season.
Yeah.
Okay.
One season. I found it funny.
All right. I watched Cowboy Bebop, which was about 60 episodes, which is good. I mean, and Death Note was the other one, which was also pretty good.
Yeah, Death Note's another one of the ones which got recommended to me, and I avoid watching.
It was good. It was fine. Man, I hope nobody tunes in thinking I'm going to talk about ducks. You know what I mean?
Maybe. I mean, we can get back to, because I can make a great segue here. Watch this professionalism. So the only thing I know about Death Note is I know the theme music, because the band who did the theme music I listened to. And on that note, do ducks respond to music? And what kind of music do they like?
Oh, good question. That was you are a professional.
Professional segue
Yeah.
there.
I don't. They listen to a lot of music, of music, because I listen to a lot of music while I'm doing chores, and I cannot keep headphones without losing them. So my music's always blaring when I'm working. I would say if I had to say their favorite bands are Bruce Springsteen. They love Bruce Springsteen. And a lot of contemporary country music.
Okay.
I would not. I haven't noticed them acting one way or another. They're all just busy being excited by the treats that I'm throwing as I'm listening to the music. So maybe there's maybe they'll have like some sort of Pavlovian response now. If I play Bruce Springsteen, they expect a mealworm every time that a Bruce Springsteen song plays.
I do wonder, could you program behavior in ducks?
Yes, I would say yes. And this would be my example so when I moved, the ducks live in the pasture during the summer, but I had to create like a winter home for them because it does get too cold for them to thrive. Mm-hmm. So the pasture is across the farm from like pretty far. Like you have to take left-hand turns, right-hand turns to get out there. And so I walk them out there and they swim out there. And then when they're ready to go back to their house, they will go back themselves, and they find their way back to their small house. And it's only interesting because it's not a straight line. Like they have to go behind one place and around. Yeah. So it makes me feel like they have some sort of navigation, or they can figure that out.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's one of those strange things that I think I don't know why, but when I think of birds in general, I don't think of birds as like massively trainable.
Yeah.
Because you see them so wild so often, you know.
Yeah, totally. I guess I see, like we talk about like birds with the better ability to fly than mine, but like people who train hawks to come back to them, right? What'd you just make me think of? Oh, so there's this hotel here in Nashville, Tennessee called the Peabody Hotel. And it's a really nice hotel. And their deal is they have ducks that live on the roof. And once a day, the ducks march down, get in the elevator, come downstairs, and walk and swim in the fountain in the middle of the hotel lobby. And it's a big deal in Nashville. This is Memphis. I'm sorry, anybody listening from Nashville. This is Memphis. And they, so like they're kind of popular for that whole deal. But ducks just want to be in the water. So it's kind of like them walking from the pool to the house. Like when I see that, I'm like, that's not surprising. They just want to go swim. So they know where the water's at. They're going to go there. But when people go to watch it, they're like, these ducks have been trained, impeccably trained, like circus trained. But they're just walking to their pool. That's understandable.
That's ducks living in a penthouse.
Yeah.
Going down to the pool.
Precisely. That's right, Peabody Hotel. I'm throwing some shade your way right now.
I mean, you say shade, but at the same time in my head, I'm like, if I ever go stay in Memphis. I'm gonna have to go to the Peabody Hotel now.
Oh, I'm going to too. I keep thinking of trying to start an Instagram beef with them and see if I can get a job doing that. Because if a hotel in my area would open up, we can set that up tomorrow.
I feel like you'd have to go bigger. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I'll need suggestions because I have more ducks. They only have 5 ducks. I can do more. Yeah.
You could like flood a lobby with ducks and then just have them all walk back up to wherever they went.
Yeah. Yeah. I like we're spitballing here. This is good. I need to make some connections with some local hotels and see what I can make.
Start a duck hotel.
I could start a duck hotel. Like most things in this life that I do, they cost. These all sound like it cost money I don't have.
I mean, yeah, it's the kind of thing where you like it costs money you don't have, but at the same time, I'd invest in a duck hotel. Like,
yeah,
if this ever made it out, like this video makes it big, and enough people watch it. If there's someone out there who's like, I got a few thousand dollars I could throw Jimmy's way, and he could farm a duck hotel.
Listen, anybody listening, listen. I've worked at hotels. I got hotel experience. I got duck experience. What else do you need?
This is all coming together. I've got this vision in my mind now of like a duck themed hotel, maybe even in the shape of a duck, like long necked. So it's like singular rooms, and then you have the penthouse on the bill.
Yeah, I love it. And Graham, I would also tell you should look up the Peabody Hotel because what you just made me think of is they actually do live in a penthouse. The ducks do. It's a marble house on the roof. It's made of marble, and they have a fountain in their house, and the fountain is made of gold. Like my poor ducks are swimming in $5 kiddie pools.
Yeah, ducks. There's the idea that there's ducks out there living better than I am.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said about class and the ducks marble house probably, and there's probably maybe some people in need in Memphis, but
yeah, I mean it's kind of when it's like we're saying earlier, like the complex situation between wanting to hunt animals and not wanting to hunt animals. When you sat there like, there's a jealousy aspect to these ducks.
Right. I want my duck to have that setup. Like, I would love that. I also don't know if my ducks should have that setup, right? But like, if I got the money to make a marble suite for my ducks, maybe that money should like go to charity or something.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, I don't know. I guess it gets kind of. I don't know why I've got a picture in my mind of like like when you get a hotel or like an entertainment venue which has a house band.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of a duck house band, which is just ducks on instruments.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we could possibly make that happen. I have been someone sent us Santa costumes for the ducks, and I have been putting those on the ducks. So getting them an instrument on them, I do not think is beyond the realm of possibility.
I mean, I don't think you need to be told how to make engaging videos because you make some very engaging videos. But I feel if you put some ducks in some band costumes and put it to a soundtrack, country western ducks could easily take off. Like,
I would put putting the ducks in costumes at the top of the list of most difficult things for me to do. I don't know if you know this, but they don't want to wear them. If you see a duck wearing a Santa hat, he wasn't on board for that video.
You actually just remind me. There's so I own a small like zine publication, like a little magazine, which is literally just ducks in hats. And now I'm questioning how you got all those ducks in hats.
Oh yeah, they don't want to wear those at all. Yeah, I make sure we're only in the hat for a second. You used a term that I heard you use in a previous podcast, and I was like, if I get the chance, I'm going to ask you about it. Not to sidetrack us again, but zine. You were talking to someone. You were talking about like a zine, not a convention, but like
a fair.
Okay. A fair. Zine fair. And I listened and I was like, this is fascinating. I have no idea what that is. What is a zine fair?
Okay, so do you know what a zine is? We'll start at that point.
No.
Okay.
No.
So we'll run through a quick issue, and this could blow your mind because you could easily make a duck scene, which would blow people's mind. So,
all right,
second idea: hotel. If we can't afford the hotel,
all right, I'm here
start
for
making duck zines. So zines are essentially they're small press publications. So they're called zines because it's half of magazine.
it.
And they started like way back when in like the 70s, 80s with bands and musicians and people using them for activism, because essentially they were published as like part of the punk rock press of people just started making fanzines or little paper publications about their favorite bands. They would go to shows and they would swap and exchange zines. And the same with kind of activism. People wanted to get messages out there. They wrote down these little booklets and they handed them out. Since then, obviously, it's grown and grown. And people use them for different means, and a lot of people use them as like a way of just getting their thoughts out, like a catharsis sort of thing. They'll kind of sit there and like write a diary, zine, and then you hand it off to people who are having same lives. But you can do them on any topic. So, like, I have a zine about ducks. It's just it literally it can be nothing. It could be a zine which is just full of photographs of ducks in hats.
Okay.
And a zine fair is just a fair where you go and sell or exchange zines.
Okay. All right. I listen. The Longbottom Bird Ranch may cross the barrier to being profitable after our conversation today, because we've got some good ideas.
I wouldn't come to me for business advice in any way.
Oh, they all work for me. A duck hotel, a duck zine. I would probably. I mean, I guess maybe that exists in the U.S. too, and I'm just unaware. Is that just a UK thing, or that probably happens over here too? I'm just unaware of it. It is a punk scene that I'm not cool enough to even know about.
No, so zines are kind of strange. So they're worldwide, and you actually the zine scene in the US is actually probably much bigger than the UK scene. The reason you probably won't run into is a lot of them happen in like major cities and major industrial cities, and if you're not into kind of the music scene, I guess what would be classed as like counterculture scene, where like rock shows and stuff like that, you just don't run into it. Like I only got into maybe a few years back, and despite being into all my arty stuff, I'd still never even ran into it, because to me they were just comics. Like, right. Everyone knows what a comic is, and then someone came around like, actually no, it's like an offshoot of what comics are, is you can make these, which are publications.
So you're telling me if I looked for a zine fair in Wilder, Kentucky, where I'm at currently, I may not be able to find it.
You might do. I'm curious now. I'm curious.
I may have to. Wilder, Kentucky has a grocery store and a Frisch's Big Boy restaurant. That's about the only. I don't know where we would meet at.
I mean, hang on one second. I just did a quick cheeky Google.
All right.
I found something called the Kentucky Fried Zine Fest.
Oh, that sounds like it may be here.
Which is in Lexington. It's
an hour away.
There you go. Kentucky Zine Fried Zine Fest, DIY culture, zines, and small press publications.
Look at this. A whole scene that Jimmy Longbottom has never been privy to.
It's one of those, especially I think like kind of like the old stuff. It always amazes me how big something can get and still never be seen. Like,
yeah, it is. Right.
You're hiding in plain sight, and yet someone doesn't know that you have a ranch of ducks.
That is a good one-to-one, is the farm itself. Whenever I tell people where it's located, it's within city limits. I don't give out the address often because I don't want anybody, I don't want the government counting how many ducks are out there. Yeah. But it is like it's hidden, like right off in the city. There's a 25-acre farm in the middle of it, and no one knows it's there. And you're right; it's the same deal, right in plain sight. It all comes full circle, doesn't it?
It does. That's the only way to do it.
Ducks. Kentucky Fried Zine Fair. Get ready for me if you're listening. I'll be there.
I mean, chatting to Jimmy, like, I honestly think you'd love it. I think you would. It's the kind of thing that, like you say, you've had a journey of kind of animals and learning about them, and your passion for things. Most people use zines because they're passionate about a niche subject, and they look out into the world and like, nobody's talking about it the way I talk about it. I'm going to publish something about it. And,
Well, you say that perfectly, because that is something that's fascinating to me, is passion about a niche subject. Like, I'm passionate about ducks, but anyone, like when I listened, and I forgive me for not remembering her name, but when I listened to your podcast where you were talking about Muppets, I'm like, this is a niche subject, but this is so fascinating to me. It's something I've never been interested in, but listening to people be passionate about something I know nothing about is the most fascinating thing.
Most definitely.
And makes me want to be interested. That's how I'm watching all these Godzilla movies, because I listened to someone passionately talk about Godzilla, and I was like, all right.
That'll be next time. Next time you come back, we will sit for an hour and we will talk about Godzilla.
I tried to today, didn't I? But
I mean, I will happily open up for another hour at Godzilla, because I have strong views about the Matthew Broderick Godzilla film.
the first Godzilla I ever saw, and I have not revisited that one recently. But
revisit. I find that one splits opinions in terms of whether people enjoy it. Yeah,
I thought I was of one mind about that movie, but
no, sadly not. Like everyone I bring it up to, you talk about, like the Godzilla film, and you're like, you're on about the new one. I'm like, no. We're talking about Matthew Broderick with the soundtrack by Jamiroquai. We're talking about
Was Jamiroquai on that soundtrack?
He did. He think he released the song Deeper Underground, which is like for that film.
That's how big that movie was. Is I didn't like it, and I can name, P. Diddy had a song off that soundtrack, the whole music video. The Wallflowers covered David Bowie for that soundtrack. I don't know why I know that. Jamiroquai is on that sound. What an amazing soundtrack! Apparently, that was.
Yeah, definitely we're having you back, because it's been great chatting to you for now.
Yeah, it's been great, right? Yes, thank you. Fantastic conversation. I've enjoyed it very much.
Thank you for coming. I think we've learned a lot about ducks and many other things. And if not, they can by coming to you on your Instagram and website and learning about it.
Yes, I would say that. If I could say one more thing, if I spend my real end game is to make sure why I do all of this is to keep these ducks comfortable and happy. But also, when I started this journey with ducks, there are no resources online that give you one good answer. So I spend so much of my time trying to respond to every message anyone sends me about ducks. It's very important to me, and sometimes it takes me time. But anybody who's listening, if you do have questions, I do want you to reach out to me and ask me, because that's really what makes me happy, is to be able to answer questions about ducks, and I'm happy to do it. So.
I think that's a very good message to end on. Definitely reach out to Jimmy and go check him out. And on that note, we will talk to these guys later. Bye.